Hi, this is Jason Arbin. I want to share some updates from the last week. Some folks have asked me to do this periodically. So I asked folks for some Q&A. Robin asked how I'm doing. He's trolling me actually in a friendly way, because Robin's also an entrepreneur working on AI and software testing. And we talk back and forth every so often about how painful it is. So it's always going good. If you get asked, it's always going good, but it's never going good, but it's also great. So there is no real answer, but thanks, Robin. I also got asked, why are people hesitant to adopt AI, especially in the testing world? Generally speaking, it's true. You hear a lot of venture capitalists and a lot of the startups having this trouble, AI first startups. Other than OpenAI, they're doing okay. But budgets are experimental today. They're not the actual mainline budgets. And people are, even I see it, I had some conversations this week with some companies and they kind of want to tiptoe in, and they just want to dip their toe in and see, is it dangerous? Is it helpful? And they're very cautious. Part of it, specifically in the testing world, is that, testers are generally lean back. I made a joke the other day that I've never met a tester that ran the beta iOS builds. They're nervous of new software. They're nervous of change. They like things to be running well and take very low risk. It's a problem in the AI world because AI is not super predictable. You can't handcraft it, and you can't just fix every bug easily. And it opens up the business to risk, not just the engineers and the product managers, but the business, because who knows what the AI is going to say? Who knows what the AI is going to do? They all think and they all want to jump on board the AI train because they're supposed to, and they're worried about missing it. So there's a lot of interest. I call it AI curious. People are very curious, but they're hesitant to actually adopt and roll it integrated into their processes. AI has come on fast. AI is getting better faster than any other technological change we've run into before. It takes people time to adopt new technology, but also because it's changing so fast, they're worried. They don't know when to jump in. Like, when do you jump into the pool? Is now a good time? Was it 6 months ago? Was it 6 months from now? Because things keep getting better too. So maybe you wait, maybe it's smart to wait, let everybody else figure out the problems, and then you jump in. So it's this balancing game of, are you going to be too early or too late? And no one has a consistent story. PNSQC, which is a software testing conference, it was in Portland a few weeks ago. The AI bots that I brought with me and shared with folks, they tested the site for the conference ahead of time. They found a bunch of issues, including some security issues, design problems. They found more bugs than the actual testers did. These were top flight testers that go to conferences. They care enough about testing to go to conferences and listen to testing talks. But the AI found far more bugs, not just more, but faster and cheaper. Like orders of magnitude faster and order of magnitude cheaper. That's just kind of the reality of AI today. But how do we get it into people's hands and make it practical? How do we get my tool to check your website? You just go to Checkie.AI and you can sign up. Literally, just there's a sign up button and you can get access. And then I'll email you the results, because AIs can just go off and test it. And then I'll share the test results with you. If I don't get to you, just ping me on LinkedIn or whatever. There's also a button on there, by the way, to create a calendar event. So you can just book time for a demo. And I'll mention it later, but Checkie's partnered with QualityWorks to help people. QualityWorks is more of a holistic kind of view of testing, and they'll help you integrate it into your flows and understand it and handhold you and make sure that it's super successful. Following questions for security checks. So we get flagged for port scanning. So I don't scan ports aggressively for that reason. So I don't have the AI bots attack ports. What I have the AI bots do is check everything else that's local, like the flag or trigger anything on the back end. Not just because I don't want to get flagged for port scanning, but like there's even laws around this. You might look like a malicious hacker. So what I do is have the AI look at all the JavaScript in the DOM, look at all the browser calls, look at the console logs, look at the network traffic, look at all those things, look at all the versions of the libraries. That was an issue the PNSQC website had, a library that was many, many years old with known vulnerabilities in it, right? That was one of the issues it found. So if you look for all those things, those are client-side resources and they don't flag on port scanning, and it's on your local machine. It's very legit to test for security issues and finds quite a bit. Yeah, so this week I've soft launched a Chrome extension. I call it the Co-Test Pilot. You can go to cotestpilot.ai and click a link and get to it. But the idea is that I'm trying to help testers that aren't automation engineers, but to make AI so easy to use, embarrassingly easy to use. If you install the Chrome extension and you go to whatever website you want, you just click a button and you say, create test cases, or you say, look for bugs on this page. So I'm trying to make it embarrassingly easy, but also sophisticated in the sense that you can also pick different testers. So there's a set of testers. This tester because they focus on edge cases, or they focus on accessibility or some other type of issue, and specialization. So you can pick what kind of tests you want to generate by picking the person, the virtual AI test agent, and you just click them, and it generates tests or bugs. So embarrassingly easy. So if you run into anybody that says, hey, I'm worried about AI. I don't understand it. I don't know how to use it. I don't know what else to do. It's one click. So I just launched it and I just got approved from the App Store. So I think 10 people tested it. And the Chrome App Store approved it. So it's available now publicly. You can just click that link. You can install it and start testing. There is one issue that I'm resolving regarding the quotas. I'll be pushing that fix tonight. But 2 notes. One is to be cautious about is that it will push, by default, it will push some of that content in the web page up to an AI server and LLM. So if you're working on your super secret version next product or project, don't use it. Because it'll push that data to a public website. If you have your own API, and right now it only supports the OpenAI keys, but if you have an OpenAI, you can enter that, and then it will just use that private key. Soon I'll be adding other, if people are interested, I'll be adding more support for other keys, for other LLMs. But you can get a private, if your company has a blessed private instance or a blessed private enterprise account that won't bleed your data or leak it. If you don't have an API key, it is throttled, so there's because it costs me money. If you use your own API key, it just uses your API key and burns your account. But it's actually pretty cheap, pennies for creating test cases or finding bugs, which should be orders of magnitude less expensive and faster than doing it manually. Here it is. You can load it. You just click it, and you say generate tests, and you pick a person, pick a persona or profile like Elena, and she focuses on attention to detail, elusive bugs, kind of corner case, and she just generated a bunch of test cases that may be useful for you. And you can just copy paste them out and use them. Or you can click find bugs and that will go out and find bugs on the page. And this one didn't find any because it's google.com. And this is like a pretty simple page. And it basically is key to only find important issues. In fact, in here, if you notice, there's also a little field at the top called the custom field. So you can do whatever you want to overwrite. So you can be in control too. You can type whatever you want, like a prompt, into that field. We'll see it here come back up at the top. And you can see the custom test prompt. You can type anything in there. You can say, hey, ignore accessibility issues, or really focus on privacy, or only find very, very high priority issues, or only create very, very high priority test cases, for example. So you can kind of filter and control what the bots are doing with a simple prompt. Also in there, you can see where you can add the API key. And also there's a link where you can do the automated Checkie.AI testing. You can just add your URL and your email, and it goes off to Checkie.AI, and then the AI bots will do a more thorough job of testing, a much more deep and thorough job of testing, and build you a full report of all the analysis if you want. And it'll execute the test cases for you too. Big news this week: Checkie.AI and QualityWorks are partnering up. QualityWorks is the official integration partner for Checkie.AI. Because Checkie.AI, we focus a lot on technology and taking inputs of URLs and JSON files and all this stuff, and doing the technical work. But a lot of people are nervous about AI, but they don't know how to integrate into their flows, and there needs to be some customization and all that kind of stuff. So QualityWorks is kind of a 360. They're humans. They care about people. They care about your success, and they care about a lot of attention to detail and just making sure things work. So if you want, you can talk to folks at QualityWorks. They will handhold you through leveraging Checkie.AI and even filtering the results or doing some of the customization for you. So it's super easy. So all you have to do is just talk to them, and you can get test cases and or bugs from AI and quality reports, and then you can incorporate them and call them your own. So it's super easy. Trying to make it embarrassingly easy. And again, I know Stacy and her team over there are just super awesome people, and they'll take care of you. And if you want to sign up for Checkie.AI, it's super easy. You can sign up and you can get free, very base level test run by the AI bots for free, and you get a report, and I'll send you the URL or some screenshots of the results. On the other side, you can also schedule a demo if you want to talk to a human. And you want to be handheld and have white glove kind of treatment and have someone take care of it for you and just make sure that everything goes well at every step of the process, and enhances your ability to integrate into your flows and your processes today. You get a live demo with me and with the Checkie team and QualityWorks teams. Coming up on the 19th, this is going to be fun. So Jonathan and I, known to be very reserved, conservative, respectful, quiet people, are going to be chatting with Joe. Any bets on how many words Joe gets in the middle of this? But we're going to talk about, the future of testing. And Jonathan's team over at Keysight is one of the few teams that have really dug into AI and really solving like enterprise test and quality problems. They're doing tons of experimentation, but very intelligent work and a lot of hard work to apply it to real world problems and working with clients to deploy that. I've been really impressed with what they're doing. So I like to talk with them and sync with them. And I've also been doing a lot of the work on AI first approach to testing, where you start with the AI and you end with the AI. And so we're going to talk about how AI is really the next framework for testing. And we're seeing an acceleration of it. It's faster than I even think. When I say it's going to be faster, it's been faster than that. We're seeing a lot of the large frontier model companies come up with automation frameworks like computer use from Anthropic and some other ones from Microsoft. Things are accelerating. And I really believe in 2025, you're going to be re-questioning your current test frameworks. We're going to switch to an AI first world. There are always people that they're scared and worried about it. But if you want to get prepared, want to see what's coming and not be caught off guard, this is the conversation to listen to. And it's going to be live on November 19th. Sign up and geek out with us. There's a testing with AI group on LinkedIn that I created a couple of weeks ago, and it's for super nerds. I use it to share a lot of hot off the presses kind of research and papers, research papers on how do we use AI to do testing work. Other people are contributing a little bit in there too, and it's a great place to follow. Magentic 1 is a new one that just came out from Microsoft, and they're taking the hardest problem on, which is not just get one script to work, but how do you get multiple scripting agents all working together to complete a very complex task? Now, the results are like early, and things are starting to kind of have a glimmer of a hint of working. If you think about it from a testing perspective, this is a fantastic and extremely ambitious test framework. The stuff's too early to be using in production today, but you might want to start paying attention to these and understand, how they work. And most importantly, they do what testers don't do, which makes me cry, is that they spend a lot of time creating benchmarks where they can take their agentic systems and measure them against a swath of test cases. So they have test cases for their framework and benchmarks to compare frameworks against each other. If all you did was read how they test the agents and organize that, it's pretty exciting. So I also have created and manage a new group on LinkedIn called Testing AI-Based Systems. And this is, there's an AI thing. How do you test it? It's very different than how we test traditional software. A big thing in AI that everybody worried about is hallucinations. And in fact, I went back recently and tried to reproduce a lot of hallucinations that were reported months ago, and many of them don't repro anymore because the models are just getting smarter. But there's two cool things in this paper. One is that they have a new way to measure and test for hallucination. But what they do is something I suggested in workshops about a year ago. You ask the AI how confident it is in its answer. If you ask a person on the street and you force them to give you an answer, like which direction is to Pike Street? And they'll say, that way. When they go, you go like, hey, they're not 100% sure probably. But you can ask them like 1 to 10, like how sure are you? They'll say 3 out of 10. Well, then maybe you ask somebody else, or you ask a different question. And so the idea here is that you can ask the AI how confident it is in its answer, and it will often tell you pretty close to the reality of how correct it is. But people just immediately take the first answer and then say, dumb AI or dumb LLM. They don't take that extra opportunity to dig deeper and just ask it, how confident are you? So this is a systematic approach to doing all that and measuring how accurate the AIs are at knowing how accurate they are, which is a very meta, but very testing and kind of quality thing to do and think about. So I shared this form on a few groups on LinkedIn for like different frameworks and on my feed. And it's waitlist/sign up form to see Cotest Pilot running in our current automation framework. So this is Playwright, Selenium, Appium, and there's a bunch of other frameworks. So what I did was ask people if they would care, because I want to help the community. The question I hear a lot is, hey, I've got legacy code written in Selenium or Java and some now Playwright. And how do I bring that forward? How do I leverage that with AI? One way to do that is to infuse AI into those frameworks. I realized I could get some of the Checkie.AI technology to give extra checks into those frameworks. So if you're testing an app with classic framework, you have a series and sequence of things. If you think that you want to click on and verify. But what's funny is, if you think about it, they're very narrow. Like they click this one thing, click on this next thing, click on this next thing, and they only verify the thing they care about. Like very specific things are there. But what the AI can do is it does a broad perspective of verification. So imagine that whenever you wanted, you can call a checkpoint. And it would look at the DOM screenshot, the network traffic console logs, whatever. It would look at all that stuff and then intelligently just say, hey, like, are there any other problems? Remember, we had this build of Chrome where all of our automation passed, tens of thousands of tests passed. And then when people loaded the build, just everything rendered white. Because if you ask the browser, if you ask the API, if things are correct, it would say, I see this character at this location, or this is a green color here, or because it thought it was displaying, but it wasn't. This is kind of an approach to that, which is actually looking at what's output and from a broad perspective, does this make sense, right? Like, are there spelling errors on this page? Even though the Python or Java doesn't explicitly check for it, does the design look bad? Does it look more like a 404 page? Does it, instead of just, hey, I can't find the reset password link, maybe it'll say your code may fail in that, but the check will say, hey, like, this doesn't look like a login page. In fact, it looks like the search page or something like that. That's super helpful even in logging and debugging what happened. Do your normal code, you just add one extra little call, one import, one extra call, and say, hey, check what's up. And then the AI goes off and does a bunch of checks. It will be slower, to be frank, because it's doing more work and you have to wait for the AI to do some stuff. But you get a lot more coverage, probably orders of magnitude more coverage to existing test cases. I want to see if people are interested, because if nobody's interested, I won't bother. And also it's free. And so, and open source is a little bit of a pain, more painful than just shipping proprietary stuff. But I know that a lot of people that build frameworks, they choose their frameworks because it's open source and because it's free, even if it costs more money in other ways. But I want to bring AI to those frameworks and to millions of automation engineers. So there's this sign up form. The most popular framework people are asking, these are more the AI open or AI curious test framework users. So that's a way to look at this data. Is kind of interesting. For a little while, like, Selenium was actually ahead in the early hours. But after I added it to the Playwright users group, obviously the number of people don't. So I'm going to use this data to kind of help prioritize. It's actually an exponential drop off. So that's good because there's fewer to probably address in the near term. But also when they're open source, people can also to the other frameworks if they like. Also interesting was which language people are using, because you can pick different languages with different frameworks. And I thought there'd be more Python than there is. There's a lot more JavaScript than I guessed. And Java is still there. Java is super legit, but I feel like it's just on like life support from a language perspective. But then again, Google laid off half the Python team a couple months ago. This will help prioritize, the framework development extensions for AI. Interesting here too, I'm on Mac OS all the time. So that was kind of my bias, but so it's kind of like surprising there really is a lot more Windows machines, obviously, duh. But it was interesting how what a strong showing Mac OS had. And also it's, break even between Linux and iOS and Android. Like, those are pretty legitimate, showings. It's a biased sample and slice of people that are interested in AI. But browser stack was the dominant, so far as the dominant response rate. I was also surprised AWS was so strong. Lemtest has got a new AI test framework. They're kind of trying to go, all in on AI right now. So maybe that's reflective of that. That's attracting those users, or that community is just kind of AI first, or because also Lambda test is maybe a little, younger than Sauce. It's a different crowd. I also asked people if they want help, and it was super sweet. Like, a lot of people were happy to help, and not everybody can code or has time to do that. So I was super appreciative how many people were willing to test early versions, because we're testers and we get early access to it. But I was surprised how many would volunteer. And it looks like we've got enough folks willing to help with code and across different platforms that maybe once we have a reference platform built out, folks can help port it to the other platforms pretty quickly. And it looks like there'd be a fair amount of support ongoing from the community. I also asked folks if they had access to an LLM API key. And to be clear, also Llama can be run, and some other open source models can be run locally. Most responding people don't have access at all yet. But OpenAI is a clear winner in terms of usage frequency. The good news is that it's pretty easy to port to these other LLMs. So once the first ones are rolled out, it's pretty easy to get those working. Also, because there's so few people with LLMs, I am working on a way to have a small quota for people so they can play with it and use it, even if they don't have an API key. I really would appreciate it if they buy me a Starbucks or hooked me up somehow, because it's coming out of my Starbucks budget. But I will make sure that it works for both people with and without an API key. How important it is that it's fully open source, right? And basically half of them did. Half of them said that. So that's just pretty dominant. And even the people that are, 7 and above, would probably consider them a 10. And so, yeah, so that's kind of what I thought. I've seen a lot of proprietary frameworks try. Even I shipped an old one, super old version that tried to do a tiny thing to do some object detection like 4 or 5 years ago. And, but it wasn't open source. I think it's got to be open source. And I'll leave it at that. That's been a week kind of in my myopic perspective of the testing world and things I've been working on and things I've been seeing. And I hope it's been useful. Don't call this a podcast yet, maybe. But if a lot of people like it, I'll maybe do some more of these. If no one really watches it or cares, then I'm happy to keep coding. But I do hear from a lot of people saying they want to hear me talk through it and talk about it. And maybe we'll do a Q&A session on this data too, Friday or Monday or something like that, and see if anybody cares or interested. Thanks, and happy testing.